We have some more breaking news coming in on this story. Big relief for 700 Indian students facing deportation threat. The Canada Immigrants Minister has stated on the floor of the House that the government is in a process so that innocent students can stay in Canada. It has become possible due to persistent efforts of Indian diaspora in Canada. And Friends of Canada and India Foundation is vocally raising this issue since March. So big relief for the students, for the 700 Indian students facing deportation threat, as the Canada Immigrants Minister has stated on the floor of the House that government is in a process so that innocent students can stay in Canada. CNN News 18 Siddhant Mishra is joining us. Siddhant, can you tell us more about the relief that the 700 Indian students have got?
Well, look, from a day one, the government had shown sympathy. The government of Canada has shown sympathy towards the 700 students, and in fact, the order also had come from the authority, not from the from the government. I mean, none of the people in the government were backing this particular order by CBSA. Now, interestingly, this is perhaps for the first time that the Immigration Minister of Canada has put this on record in the House that they are figuring out some sort of a process or a pathway so that these 700 students, those who are fearing deportation, can apply for a permanent citizenship. So it is perhaps the biggest relief because now the government, the minister in charge, is assuring that they are finding a pathway, they are finding a process so that these students can reapply for a permanent citizenship. And he also adds on to say in his statement that there are many stories of children going in depression, and you know the fault is of those agencies sending them to Canada, not of these students. So the government has realized it, and also government is finding a pathway. So it is perhaps it's a big achievement for Indian diaspora, especially Friends of India and Canada, the diaspora groups. And in fact, India has also flagged off this issue very strongly. The other day, External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar spoke strongly against the deportation of 700 students back to the country. So India has also put up this issue very strongly. Then the High Commissioner of India to Canada, Sanjay Verma, was dealing with this entire issue on a daily basis. Perhaps he was in touch with these groups and the diaspora groups, so that early relief could be given to these students. But now it looks like that deportation is going to be put on hold. In fact, we already have confirmation that some of the students' deportation have already been kept on hold. But we can expect that the entire the deportation of this entire batch, 700 students, are going to be on the hold because the government is looking at a possibility or an arrangement, a pathway, so that these students can again become a permanent citizen. They don't have to go back to India. So yes, so that arrangement is going to happen sometime soon now.
All right, Siddhant, please stay with us. We have some more breaking news that's coming in. Now, Friends of Canada and India Foundation President Maninder Gill has welcomed Canada's move. So, Friends of Canada and India Foundation President Maninder Gill has welcomed Canada's move of bringing relief to the 700 Indian students. He has said, and I quote, "The extraordinary efforts of India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar deserves appreciation." H.E. Shri Sanjay Verma, India's High Commissioner to Canada, was very proactive in achieving a fair result for the students. I thank the government of India for resolving this issue. We hope that the authorities in India and Canada reach to the bottom of this fraud so that this kind of situation can be prevented in future. So the move is being welcomed by Friends of Canada and India Foundation. And we have our correspondent Siddhant with us. Siddhant, over to you.
Well, that's right. So the organizations like Friends of Canada, India, advocates like Loveleen Singh, Maninder Gill, all have been, fighting for this particular issue from a very long time. And in fact, they were quite vocal. They were also, putting pressure on the Indian High Commissioner Sanjay Verma in Canada. Then also they are doing campaign in favor of these students because ultimately, when you go into the depth of this entire matter, then the fault is of that consultancy firm based out of Jalandhar. The owner was Brijesh Mishra, who is still at large, not been arrested. So these students have no fault. They paid their money to get admission. They followed the due procedure to enter Canada to get admissions in the respective universities. But they were scammed. So, victims cannot be treated like perpetrators. So that was an idea behind this entire campaign. So if you are deporting these students back to India, it means that the government is considering them as a perpetrator, as an illegal immigrant. So, it was also a question of identity of these students. Point number one. Point number two, the government always had sympathy for these 700 students, but the bigger issue was legality. Because government cannot change law overnight. So for that, government was looking for an opportunity or perhaps a pathway so that these students can apply for a permanent citizenship, and that perhaps took time because it cannot be done in a single go. So now the assurance is coming that they have considered a process through which this can be done. Because in Canada, if any of the immigration papers are fake or false, then that becomes a responsibility of a candidate. So that is how the immigration law is in Canada. So that was perhaps making it difficult for these 700 students. But yes, the way the campaign has been run by Maninder Gill and Friends of India Canada and the other groups, now they are welcoming the efforts made by External Affairs Minister Jay Shankar, the Sanjay Verma, the High Commissioner of India to Canada, because of this collective efforts and maybe the statement that India has been issuing in favor of these students. Now we could expect the deportation to get postponed or perhaps get cancelled because the pathway is being created so that these students can stay in Canada for a longer time.
All right, Siddhant. We also have Anvit, who was part of the investigation that CNN News 18 carried out on the story. Anvit, coming back to you. So how did the Canadian authorities come to know about the forged documents as the students were living there and had studied there for years?
See, it was what we have learned that when they applied for the PR and their documents were checked and the border security was involved and immigration departments were got involved into the scrutiny of the document, it was only then that it was realized that the documents and some of the documents that they had obtained to get admission into the universities long back, they were forged, and that is why their PR possibility of getting the PR and getting a permanent residency also got also is now uncertain, and that is the entire issue is when we started the investigation back here in India, that why such an issue arose first of all in the first place. It was found that it was all because of the educational documents that were probably obtained fraudulently. Not all might have the same issue, but majority of them had been fooled, most of them, because many of them also come from the lower strata. When my colleague Yash Goel traveled to Punjab and he met many of the families of the victims, we found that they do not come from a very well-off background, and they were not very well aware of what the procedure is. Many of them certainly have been fooled by the agents and the agencies that, see, this is the process and these are the documents that you need to obtain, and therefore you need to pay to us to go abroad and to get admission in one of the universities abroad. Many of them have also sold their lands off. Many of them had to take hefty loans, and that is why, because these people are not much aware, and these candidates were also not well aware, but they wanted to travel abroad and settle down there. They were fooled, and the money was taken from them, and they were handed over certain certificates which could obviously facilitate their travel abroad, but not make them a permanent resident of that place. And that is the entire issue why this thing has erupted and why we took this investigation on. But obviously, when we started this investigation, we found that this is the ground reality even in the national capital and even in Punjab, of course. But it was shocking to see that even in Delhi there are multiple agencies that are operating, that are functioning, many of them anonymously, but most of them are there, very much present in the markets, and they are promising that yes, we'll send you abroad, any document you need can be obtained, you just pay us money, be it the graduation degree, even if you're a college dropout, we can arrange a college degree for you.